All right, how are we doing? Welcome to Thursday, July 2nd. I'm Mike Jeffers, Chicago Jazz Magazine, chicagojazz.com, and of course, you are watching Chicago Music Revealed, episode 65. We have got a very special show today, as I previewed yesterday. Very special show. We are going to be previewing tracks from the new recording by vibist Thaddeus Tukes, and a good friend of the show. We had him on a couple of weeks ago, so we're going to bring Thaddeus up in 1 second. But I should also mention, I am also the director of programming and entertainment at the Symphony Center for the Arts. Opening soon, September 1. We're looking at doing 6 nights a week of live music with a very safe COVID system in place and some live streaming. So all of that's going to be announced very shortly in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of fun, exciting series coming up. Of course, epiphanyShy.com for all of the information. 201 South Ashland Avenue. Looking forward to seeing everyone in person over there. Also want to congratulate, and I know Thaddeus will probably chime in when he jumps on too, Green Mill, Andy's. They are up and running in a very COVID safe environment. So thank goodness live jazz is happening again in Chicago. And I did get a notice that Winters is going to be hosting some at-home live streaming through their website coming soon. So we're going to announce all of that on chicagojazz.com, Chicago Jazz Magazine, and also chicagomusicrevealed.com. Now, I'm going to stop talking. We are going to bring Thaddeus Tukes. How are you, Thaddeus? It's good to see you in person this time.
Right. It's great to be here. Good, man. I'm doing well.
Well, I know we were on last time, and we were talking about, I mean, you have created quite a stir with your protest marching jazz band, and everybody wants Thaddeus at the protests now doing the marching thing. And in this heat, I'm sure that's a good workout. But we're not here to talk necessarily all about that. We're also talking about this brand new recording you've got, Let's Vibe, that came out in the fall, but now you're releasing it with digital, and I think you said there was a vinyl too involved in this whole thing coming out.
It's coming soon.
Coming soon. So tomorrow the digital hits, July 3rd, available at ThaddeusTukes.com. So how are you?
I'm really excited. I mean, I did put the album out in a CD form back in November, I believe we did it at the Green Mill. So when you brought that up, it's perfect connection. And part of the reason I want to do it that way, it's very popular now, stream an album as soon as it comes out and all that. But I want to put out the CD form because I want to really, again, connect with that Chicago jazz audience. And a lot of them still love CDs, and they love the idea that their artist is giving the autograph,
That's right.
And it was also a test the music and get feedback. Maybe, there was a track listing issue that we were able to fix in the meantime, or what people thought, maybe going back and editing some tracks. And it's kind of cool to have that ability afforded to me during this time. And I hope that a lot of other artists will use the various mediums that we have to put out music to experiment, not necessarily, but with the rollout and the marketing of the thing. So now, instead of just targeting Chicago for my digital release, I already targeted Chicago. So now the target is lower than Chicago. I have strategic partners in different cities who are helping me get the album to different people, different fans, etc. So I'm really excited. It's definitely an experiment. Being an independent musician, we do a lot of stuff ourselves. You're doing so much, not only as a performer, but as a management and booking and everything. So it's I think it's unique kind of that Chicago jazz musicians kind of take on these mini roles when trying to help our careers come to fruition. And I'm excited that I can experiment, and I'm looking forward to what we see from it.
Well, you've obviously, I mean, you're like always thinking about the marketing aspect of music. Because of your background, going to journalism school, going to Northwestern, studying with, having Victor Goines as a mentor there, along with many other these incredible musicians who also understand music business. Oh, wait a minute, the music business. So I love the fact, you put it out in the fall, But I always talk to different musicians because they'll call for Chicago Jazz Magazine's purposes. They're like, "Well, what do you think? I'm going to put this out." Okay, they put it out. A year later, they're like, "Well, I got to record a new recording because this one's been out for a year." And I'm like, you did one release show and you sent out an e-blast. I mean, I don't know if maybe it's just me, but there's 3 million people in Chicago that probably haven't heard it yet. So maybe we should focus a little bit more on that. So I like the fact that you're dropping this thing and the way you're dropping it and the way you're pushing out now the digital version, and you're able to do a whole other blitz on it and a whole other and also you were able to dial a couple of things into your point, but also you're able to just get it out, and now you can start focusing on different cities, and you don't have to send physical copies. You can start reaching out to different people and getting connected and all of that stuff. I think it's a great plan. I think more people ought to be thinking about it that way.
Thanks. And a surprise, I love wrapping surprises on the show. We're actually in the middle of wrapping up a film shoot to accompany the album. And I actually just got off the phone with Wayne, and it looks like we're going to premiere it hopefully at the showcase. Actually, around the time when Jazz Fest would have normally been happening. So we can talk later and get closer to that. But it's like multifaceted. A lot that I've been noticing as a musician is that it seems that we've kind of, especially in jazz, sometimes it seems that we become locked into one presentation of jazz, right?
Yep.
Whether that's in a club or live streaming or us people having to sit and watch us play. And like, honestly, I support the people that love to come and watch us play, but I also feel that like it's not always particularly interesting to watch us play, but it doesn't mean you don't like the music. So I've been really, really focusing on other ways to present the same music in different palatable formats, especially when we're talking, I'm a part-time teacher. I teach in elementary school and high school. So when you're talking about little kids, like they don't have the attention to just watch four people play instruments.
Right.
They need a bunch of action. So being a teacher has definitely informed like my music career and how I present information.
That's a great point because you're right. You have to, as a teacher, you have to hold their attention. So it's very similar. I mean, you go into you play a festival, you play a club, there's going to be hardcore jazz fans that are going to sit there, and then you're going to have the vibists and the percussionists that are there just staring at the mallet, seeing if you're making a wrong note or how you're hitting the mallet, if it's rebounding and everything else.
Right.
And then you've got the 95% of everybody else in there is casual music fans who just are out for an evening, trying to relax, have a good time, and want to enjoy something. And if they're not familiar with your music, they're there, and you have to be entertaining. And I think sometimes jazz musicians lose that concept that they have to be entertaining. They can't just play and people will always understand it. And I've always thought you always think about different ways to present your music, to your point. And I mean, that's exactly what you're doing with this recording and listening to the different tracks and going through the different tracks. Let's talk a little bit about the people that are on this and your whole concept behind it, because we talked a little bit a couple of weeks ago about the recording and some of the reasons why you were trying to bring everybody together on this recording and feature just a kind of a different setting for all of these different musicians to play in. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the concept behind that was more a journey where I was trying to figure out how to channel all the various experiences that I had working with a bunch of musicians. Like my second album, Thad's Groove, I had about 20 Chicago musicians, and that was a crazy experience. One, just having many people in the room like in a 2-day period, and also managing all these different sounds and being able to put together like a trio in 5 minutes for this song that they are almost sight reading.
And if I'm remembering correctly, didn't you record that in some very special place or something, right? Where we don't have to go down it, but where'd you record that one?
Yeah, so we recorded that actually at Ahmad Jamal's former home in Chicago, which is really cool. His music listening room is still set up. It was a really cool experience. It's so like, bridges, as we say.
Yeah, right. Okay. Anyways, I had to bring that up because it's so cool.
I'm glad you did. My mom's probably glad you did too. But we're so with Let's Vibe, it was more about like what's my voice in all this, right? Like And it's crazy to me how the world has just changed since like I first even conceived of this album, because I wanted Let's Vibe to be part of a larger movement of how we can relate to each other better as humans, how we can build on our empathy and communication skills and peace building tools to create the communities that we actually want. We're always complaining about what we don't like in society and what's wrong with society, but like how many of us are really invested on a daily, minute to second basis
Right.
of like committing to being that person that we want to see around us. And part of my journey musically, part of all of our journey musically, is finding our voice, and we're always in search of our voice. But what I think, or at least believe, is that you already have your voice, and the point is finding a way to present your voice to an audience that's willing to receive it, and make sure that you're saying something impactful and meaningful when you speak. So if you notice, Let's Vibe is like, the album itself is like 31, 32 minutes long, which we know
Mm-hmm.
in jazz that's like unprecedented right now. Everybody's album is like 3 hours, but the
There's
point
four
of
tune.
it,
There's 4 tunes on an hour recording. Is what you
exactly,
said.
exactly. Uh, but the point of this was to be concise. I wanted, I listen to it now, and there are things that we all would change,
Yeah. Right.
but I think it's unique from our other albums in that it was a body of work written for that specific moment to have a specific meaning, and I tried as much as I could to use that voice to say something, right? Whether the form of the song, whether it's in the chord changes we use, whether it's in how I interpolate the melody into my improvisation. Just how can I find my voice, and does finding my voice inspire other people to realize that they
Mm-hmm.
already have a voice and can just use it better?
That's it's a great concept. I mean, it's just like it's perfect, and the way you put the whole thing together, and that's that whole title, right? Let's vibe.
Right.
It's not necessarily vibraphone, although it's a double entendre a little bit, but let's vibe together. I got it. See, I'm a drummer. I get it, man. I understand.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
just hear like maybe 30, 40 seconds of some. We'll stay on the camera here, but what do we have here? What do you think? Vibestown, I think. Vibestown
I
Stomp.
think Bobstown Stump is the perfect start, because Bobstown is my Chicago song on this album, because you can't talk about the word vibes without talking about Chicago. Like on a historical research level, the word vibes wouldn't exist in the way that we know it without Chicago. So
That's
gotta
right.
shout out
All right,
Chicago.
let's take a quick listen here. All right, so I'm hearing some New Orleans in there too. Little
Yeah.
second line kind of feel there. So you obviously wrote that tune, right? So what's the was that the feel that you originally came up with, or was that something you came in with the band and everybody's like, well, wait a minute, this is kind of like, okay, let's try it this way.
Well, it's always both. Like I can give them a framework of what I want it to look like, and they do their own thing. But I will say, my sister actually went to college at Xavier University in New Orleans. I might have mentioned that last time, but
Mm.
that forced me, along with, right after I was a student of Victor Goins, who's a New Orleans baby, as we say, right? That really opened my eyes to that style and that sound, and then when I learned the history and saw that all of those cats from New Orleans came pretty much directly to Chicago once Storyville closed, it all made sense to me. So I have been personally invested in kind of remarrying that sound. You know, that's like that New Orleans style and that New Orleans vibe. That's what created the Chicago scene.
Yeah.
And over time, it morphed and changed, and all of that stuff. But even the fact that the first big bands in Chicago had tubas before they had upright bass. That's like a New Orleans vibe.
That's right.
So I feel like you don't even have Chicago in the way that we know it, especially on a cultural level, even going as far as like uh Chicago being founded by DuSable, like
Hmm.
going that far back, you wouldn't have Chicago the way we know it without that French black culture.
That's right. Well, and it's interesting. I think a lot of people, and of course, we could spend an entire show talking about this, but I mean, the amount of New Orleans musicians that came here in the early 20th century, 1900s,
Mm.
and I remember talking to Erwin Helfer, a great
Mm.
jazz boogie woogie blues piano player. He's still with us, but he was telling me just nonchalant, and everybody that knows Erwin is nonchalant, just really
Right,
casual. Well, he used to be
right.
like best friends with Baby Dodds, who lived
What?
here in Chicago. Oh, he's telling me stories about how he used to go and hang out with Baby Dodds back in like the late 40s and early 50s in Chicago when he was living here. And I was like, wait a minute, could you say that again? Now, Baby Dodds is world famous. Didn't he play with Louis? I know I played with Louis, but he
Yeah,
played with a lot of different New Orleans musicians that came up. He's like one of those guys, him and Chick Webb. They like
right,
invented jazz drumming essentially. I mean, they were the
right.
founders. So that whole scene was here in Chicago. I mean, so when you tie it in the New Orleans thing, I mean, there's so much history that
Yeah.
both cities share, and the music is one main part of it. So, okay, good. We see, I on that New Orleans thing, man. That's very hip.
Yeah, you
That's
did.
very
You
hip.
did immediately.
All right, so now the one of the other tunes we want to talk about, obviously the title tune, "Let's Vibe." How did
Man.
that come about?
So like that's the different tune I
Should
say
we
on
listen?
the
Should we listen to a
on the
little snippet of it first, and then talk about it? What do you think?
sure, why not?
Yeah. All right. Let everybody stand by. That was called a teaser in the
Right.
broadcast. All right. So let's listen to a little bit of "Let's Vibe," and then we'll come back and we'll find out about the history, the behind the scenes part of "Let's Vibe." So let's do about 20, 30 seconds.
Someone took your world, who made you think about life in a whole new light. Looking your soul through those gorgeous eyes. I hope that one day you'll be my wife. See, every day with you just seems so nice. I wake up to clear skies and the blue jays flying by. And if we take our time, see what is real life, we'll come to love what we find. 'Cause all I do is be your man. And if we trust, we will fall and never land. 'Cause when we love, we can touch the sky. So let's vibe, let's vibe, let's vibe.
All right, so that's the hit. That pop hit of the "Let's Vibe."
Yep.
Man, that's a great tune.
Thanks,
Is
man.
that you
That's
singing?
crazy because listening to it, I just realized that I didn't even send you the most recent version of it.
Oh,
So I'm glad that you think that version is a hit because let's can't wait till you hear the new version.
wow!
But
Look at
yeah,
that, the ultimate teaser. Now you have to buy the recording tomorrow to get the real
right. You
version.
gotta
Oh
listen
man,
to
I
it
love it.
tomorrow.
The marketing angles. All right, was that you
Man,
singing on it? Was that you?
yeah, man. So
Man.
that's actually so here's the real backstory. I don't know if I've ever told this story. So I was in college and listened to, in college you just listen to an insane amount of music, like
Yep.
that you almost never do in the rest of your
Right.
life.
Yeah.
So I was really into Gretchen Parlato, and she had this song or a cover that she did, Fleur de Lis,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought that like the way that they use bird changes in a different way was so beautiful and so genius. So I now her I made own chords based off of that. And right around that time, um, I was young and I was dating. And so I met someone and I was like, oh, that's great, right? Started the song and I started the lyrics, but I literally didn't even create the version that you hear today until like a month before the recording. That's like a song that I've really
Oh,
been working
wow.
on for like 4 or 5 years, and the lyrics have changed over time and the meaning has changed over. You wasn't even called Let's Vibe. Let's Vibe wasn't even a part of the song until the end of 2018, when like I had a huge shift in my love life and I had a huge shift in my personal life,
Hmm.
and that's when everything kind of started to make sense for me.
That's
So, and
awesome.
that was the point where I was like redefining the meaning of love, and like what does love look like between romantic partners and family, and like how do we mediate that, and how do we express,
Yep.
so then it was like, let's vibe. I was just literally in my basement, like, let's vibe, let's vibe, let's vibe. And that's how we got the song.
That's how some of the best songs happen, though, right? You let it percolate for a little while, and then all of a sudden something hits you, and bam, you can
Yeah,
finish it.
yeah, exactly.
You
And you
know,
can finish it. It's like finish
man.
for 3 years and then it clicks.
Well, hey, Rolling Stones recorded an entire album for 3 years. I mean, come on.
Right,
All
right.
right, so everybody can pick that, not that version, the new version up tomorrow. ThaddeusTukes.com. Of course, Let's Vibe available tomorrow digitally
That's
on all the platforms. You can get digital downloads, I would assume, but everybody can go over to ThaddeusTukes.com. Now, before we get out of here and before we preview and talk a little bit about this last tune, hats off to you, because not only do you have obviously hard copies of this, the CDs, you're talking about sometime in the near future, there's going to be some vinyl available. We're not announcing that yet because it's not ready to be announced. And then, of course,
right.
tomorrow, July 3rd, is the streaming thing. But going through your website, outside of the other recordings you have, this guy, I'm telling you, man, this guy's a marketing genius. He's got baseball hats. He's
Yeah.
got,
Hey man,
he's,
look at this. Check this out.
hey,
Live on the face mask, man.
oh, he's got the
Got
face masks. That's not even on your website yet, I don't think.
you. Right, not yet.
Oh man, so he's got face masks. He's got tea mugs. He's got even a hooded sweatshirt. Is that
Mm.
is that that model on there somebody that you're a little close to there too? Is that
She's the inspiration for Let's Vibe.
I
Yes,
was
she
I was
is.
I wasn't going to presume, but I thought so. Okay, good. So you not only can you get your digital download tomorrow, but I would suggest you go over there and get a baseball hat or a hooded sweatshirt so everybody knows Let's Vibe, right? I mean, that's
Sweet,
marketing in itself. I love it, man. You're ahead of
man.
me. I don't even have Chicago Jazz Magazine T-shirts anymore. You win.
Man, I can give you a hookup if you need one.
We might have to talk offline, man. I don't know. All right,
Right, right.
the last tune we'll talk about, but of course, how many tunes are on this recording again?
So the album actually has 9 tunes on it. They're all written by me. They really specifically speak to like unique experiences I've had. It's not just BS. It's like I have this really good relationship and community within the Latin jazz world, and so I'm writing tunes based off of things that they're literally saying to me and exposing to me. I grew up playing music in church, so I write the gospel that's directly like even the way that I wrote out the chord structure is completely reflective of what you would hear in the church. So there are 9 songs on here. I was born on September 9th, which is 9/9, so it all works
Man, you think of everything. I love it. I love it, man.
out.
That's why
I
you
have
have.
help,
That's why
man. It's
you.
not just me. I
Well,
got
hey,
help.
man. That's why you have all these degrees from Northwestern, because you're actually thinking about stuff.
Man.
All right. So this last tune, No Mas Ron. Talk a little bit about it. You're playing marimba on this one too, right?
Yes. So basically, one thing I was able to do for the first time in my life in 2019 was travel outside of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to Jamaica and I went to Cuba. And funny thing is, Orbit Davis actually flew down and met me in Cuba, him and Mark. We went to one of their students' concerts. It was actually pretty cool. But anyway, being so Jamaica was cool. And I was in like this resort and you're kind of disconnected from the community and you don't really hear, what the sounds of the street are, right?
Yeah.
But in Cuba, we stayed in like an Airbnb in the middle of a neighborhood, and that was like the
Wow.
most eye-opening experience, man. Like hearing the woman who like will the house cleaner walk down the street and she has a call that people know that she's coming and they run out the street and grab her, or like the fruit truck will have a call and the people run out, or the birds, different types of birds and different the engines on the cars that like we don't even hear that here because we don't have cars from the 50s,
Right.
so
Yeah. Right.
that experience was like so eye-opening, and it revolutionized how I even made music. So I wrote this song pretty much like inspired by that.
Do you speak Spanish too?
Si, senor.
Oh man, I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it. I knew it.
I'm,
All right.
I'm close to fluent. I got a little more practicing to do. But I'm
Well,
close.
you're way ahead of me. So congratulations, man. Congratulations. I've been telling myself I need to brush back up on everything from my school days of learning some of it, and now it's so important to know that, and for you as a musician and to be able to go to Cuba and be able to talk to people and actually speak this language and then play. I mean, that whole experience has to be mind blowing.
But it revitalized my experience in Chicago and completely reimagined. And there's people that live 3 blocks away from me that I can speak to in Spanish and do so much better now after being in a Spanish speaking country. And it helps me even maneuver the various even within our jazz scene. Like, think about how many cats from the scene are like from all over the world.
Yeah.
Like, they just have this variety of experiences. That I'm a Chicago boy that's been in Chicago my whole life. So getting out of Chicago was just like, whoa, my world is like a completely different place now.
Well, let's hear a little bit of this, and then we'll close things out. But we're not closing things out quite yet. So let's take a listen to this. I listened to this a couple of times. I love the sound and the vibe of this tune. I love it. Here we go.
That, man.
I'm good thing groove in the background. I gotta ask though, are those rubber mallets or are those hard yarn?
Those are actually hard yarn.
Oh,
and
okay.
I just got like a Deegan, old nice Deegan. That one was like a marimba that one of my coworkers, Miss Davis, he doesn't even work at the school anymore, but he found out I played, and he like storage room somewhere, and he said, I have a marimba, do you want it? And literally drove it to my house, man.
Wow.
Crazy.
Well, we could talk percussion. I mean, have you ever been to the old Deacon factory up on the north side and all that?
Of course, man.
Yes.
You know that's my favorite spot, Century Mallets.
It's wild, man. It's wild. All right, Thaddeus, thank you so much. I want everybody to get over there tomorrow. So what is it tomorrow? Tomorrow, like right at midnight it drops, or what is it?
At midnight, it'll be streaming everywhere. You should download. You should share it. People use it as a way to build new relationships. Use it as a way to mend old relationships. Use it as a way to reinforce existing relationships. I just want this album to help people connect with each other the way they can. Even if y'all connect over disliking it, it's okay, long as we connect, because that's what we got to do in this stage. Because if we don't do it, then there will be other forces that drive us further apart, which just hurts everybody. Like there's nobody that wins from that. So I just want to use to the real purpose of jazz, which is let's connect and let's talk.
That's man. So now, since you brought this up, the next time your film comes out, obviously now we got to have you back on the show. I love this. This guy, you know how to set up.
We try to do roll out.
All right, always a pleasure. Congratulations on the live stream. ThaddeusTukes.com to go get the download tomorrow at midnight. We're gonna tag out and link everything up, so it'll be up on everything. Yes, and it'll all be up tonight at midnight. It'll be ready to go. So ThaddeusTukes.com. Thaddeus, thanks so much. Always a pleasure. All right, man.
Love, man.
Hey, have a good 4th of July weekend.
Thanks, man.
All right, take care. He talked about last time. the first time I had him, I met him actually. He came into and played at here. I got to take some of these graphics off because, of course, I'm doing all of this on my own here. He came in and played at my booth at the Chicago Jazz Magazine booth. Geez, back in 2009, 8. He was young. He was still just starting out in high school. He had his vibes, and he came in, just killed it because we had a live performance space in there. By the way, that video is up on youtube.com/Chicago Jazz Music. And it's up there if you want to go see a young Thaddeus Tukes. I'm going to play a little of this on our way out so we can get a little grooving going here again from Let's Vibe, available tomorrow, ThaddeusTukes.com. Of course, it's always a pleasure having Thaddeus on the show. This is the last show of the week. Tomorrow we're taking off for the 4th of July, so I thank everyone for listening, everyone for watching. If you like this, share it, please. Tell everybody Thaddeus Tukes' album is dropping tomorrow night. Or tonight, I should say, at midnight. So check that out. And then, of course, head over to ChicagoMusicRevealed.com. We're going to announce all of the guests that we're going to have next week. And we are also going to be announcing a surprise guest that we might have on. We might do a double header on one day next week. And I think everybody's going to be real excited about who we're going to have on as a special guest, previewing a couple of shows he has coming up. So we're working that out right now. And we should have that announced as well over the weekend. So everything's on ChicagoMusicRevealed.com. Of course, jazz information, the new issue of Chicago Jazz Magazine is up on ChicagoJazzMagazine.com, ChicagoJazz.com, and check out our podcast, the Chicago Jazz Audio Experience, on every platform that has podcasts. So thank you so much. Everyone stay safe. Everyone stay healthy. Everyone stay away from each other and social distance so we can get through this pandemic, so we can all get back into a live music venue together somewhere soon and see somebody like Thaddeus or all of the hundreds of musicians here in Chicago. Again, everybody stay safe this weekend. If you like what you hear, please like us, please share us, please leave us a comment. We got lots of great comments, lots of love I see, lots of thumbs up. So I thank everyone for doing that. Keep them coming. Monday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, we will be back here with more Chicago Music Revealed. I'm Mike Jefferson. I always say, if you like what you're hearing, tell your neighbors, tell your family, call the grandkids. We will see you back here 6 p.m. Monday. Stay safe. Have a great 4th of July. Take care. See ya.